And if this does it, great. Jimette Raja says, I hope this is not too inappropriate. There are quite a few players in the women's game who are openly homosexual, but none in the men's game that I know of. Steve Davies, former Surrey and England player, and now plays for Worcester again, I think. Does that mean the men's dressing culture is not supporting same-sex relationships? Look, I think that you have to understand that women's sport is just way different than men's sport. Women's sport, right across the board, is always been a leader in gay sports, I suppose, and men's sport has been lagging behind. Martina Navratilova. You've got cross relationships across sport, don't you? That Sue Bird and the American footballer. You've got major relationships in women's cricket across teams. Between England and New Zealand and all these sorts of things. You've got marriages within the women's sport. I think that for whatever reason, and there's probably great articles out there why this has happened, but I think that through women. The women who were allowed to play sport were often more masculine, or demanded to play sport were often more masculine, and there's probably a larger percentage of those who were lesbians to begin with. They weren't worried about getting, there's a lot of women who were probably very good at sport, who were straight women, who were put off playing sport because it wasn't seen as being feminine or, and those sorts of things. Whereas within the gay women's community, they don't, they have a completely different setup. So I think that's got a large part of it. As far as the men's go, it's a really interesting thing. I don't know what percentage of male cricketers are gay. It's nowhere near the same percentage of what women's cricketers are gay, even if it's closet versus not in the closet. There's absolutely no doubt that there are a higher percentage of women who are gay in professional sport in general than men. But yeah, I mean, cricket is conservative sport in many different ways as well. And that goes across to the social aspects of it. So, I mean, Jim, it's a really good question. I think that if every male professional athlete, let's take this away from cricket, if every male professional athlete in the world who was gay came out at once, it would probably completely change the conversation and it would be different. But everyone's living in their own areas and their own sections and their own sport and their own nationalities. When Steve Davies came out, I'll put it this way, I went through and had a look and worked out that at that stage, I think it was almost 4, maybe 4.5, because of the weird rules in the weird laws in different countries where he couldn't have a relationship with a man in the country he was in. Like, he couldn't have taken his partner there and had sex with his partner. That's part of cricket. There are massive problems within homosexuality within cricket because of things like that. So it is a very tricky situation. But I think that women's sport is just so different to men's sport that you can't really compare the two. But there's definitely a problem within male sport in general and coming out. I think that's very fair. We just had the big story in America, didn't we? Was it the Raiders coach, I think, who publicly on ESPN said all the very good things about having a gay athlete play for his team, and then privately was the complete opposite. I think that's what a lot of gay male athletes are afraid of, that even if people say nice things to their face, that they will be treated differently. And I don't think they're wrong, sadly.